Hello, today we're going to make a presentation on the Kelonia Design Glass Company that operated just north of Toronto from 1985 to 1989. How did we get interested in this company? Well, it started with the acquisition of this little plate. It's about 6 inches diameter. It's got clearly a Scandinavian influence. And what makes it interesting, or made it interesting, was on the bottom of the plate, it says Kelonia Design Glass. And in an arc under the bottom at the bottom of the second picture, it says handmade in Canada. And that's enough to trigger my interest. A company I haven't heard of and made in Canada. So when you when I start researching a company or looking for a company, I do two things. I start with searching the internet, and part of that is um, looking through eBay. And so I started looking for Kelonia, and you see a lot of things with Kelonia, but only a few of them are glass. Well, up came a piece that had this label on it, Kelonia handmade in Canada. So that had to come here so we could study it some more. And this is what it is. It's a centrifugally cast piece of glass. It's got that Scandinavian influence. It's kind of the brutalist look. It's heavy, and you can see at the back there it has the Kelonia label on it. This one's a little different than most of the ones we see. In that it's two colors. It's got a dark blue base and crystal sides, which is a little different. But the first thing when this arrived here that I thought of was the Lyric Glass Company out of Essex, just outside of Windsor. And here we have a slide showing on the left a piece of Lyric glass. And again, this one's got a label on it. And on the right, we have that piece of Kelonia that I just introduced you to. So what's the connection here? We've got Lyric and Kelonia both making the same style of glass. So let's go back a little bit and talk about the Lyric Glass Company. They were based in Essex, Ontario, and they operated from 1979 to 1984. 1979, September the 14th, the Essex Star reported that Peter Rossi, and that's Peter's picture there, is going to operate an art glass manufacturing business at 93 Wilson Avenue. It will be known as Lyric Glass Corporation. So there's Peter holding a centrifugally cast piece of glassware. That one at the time you could buy it for $50, and that's probably about what you pay for it today, maybe a little bit less. So here's the little red pin head tells us where the Lyric Glass Company was located, just outside of Windsor, Ontario. The original partners included Peter Rossi, Senior, Timo Symes, Olavi Mansica. They were equal partners, I believe. The employees were Rista Santila, and he was a Finnish glass specialist that came to Canada for a year to teach them how to make this type of glass. Denise and Frank Lachance and Peter Rossi Jr. Sometime around 1983, Symes bought out Rossi and Mansica and turned it into a family business with his wife and children. Here's his son dropping a gather of glass into the centrifugal device, and on the right hand side you could see the mold. They're very simple, open top, and here they're heating it to prepare it for dropping the glass into. Then it's spun at a very high speed, and the glass kind of climbs up the side of that mold, and every piece is a little different. Here's some examples of Lyric's product, some bowls and various different pieces here. Here's an example that we added to our collection. Lyric made a light blue color and a color they call bronze, which I haven't quite figured out, and crystal. But this is a fairly large bowl with the Lyric label. And again, they used a little vinyl label as well. This one is in that light blue color. Well, the company went well for a while, but they got caught up in the energy crisis of the early 80s, and the cost of fuel was horrendous. I talked to one of Timo's sons a number of years ago, and he told me that the fuel cost took them out of the business. And there was an article in the paper that talked about it was negotiating a sale, and it was when it was completed, the new owner would move the company to Barrie, Ontario. And off to the other side, there's a sale here that says 65% off. We're closing on December 21st. So that was the end of the Lyric Glass Company. How does that connect us to uh, Kelonia Design Glass? Well, we'll see. Again, here's an article. New owners are removing Lyric Glass to Barrie. Besides newspaper advertisements, a large sign in the store shows the company's future location just south of Barrie at the junction of Highway 400 and Highway 89. That'll be important in a little bit. So, Kelonia, we start looking for Kelonia, and the first mention that we can find of Kelonia Design Glass is a help wanted ad that appeared in the Kitchener Record on May the 5th, 1985. They were looking for an experienced glass blower for production. And again, it was in the Kitchener Record, but the location of the company was 35 miles north of Toronto, rural Route 1, Thornton, Ontario. And you could either send them your resume or you could call and ask for John or Peter. Don't know who John and Peter are, at least not yet. We will find out shortly. The other thing we can find is a registration of a trademark, and there was two trademarks registered. One was just the word Kelonia, and the other one was this particular design, which again was on the label. And this was registered by the Roto Brothers Limited, doing business as Kelonia Design Glass, Innisfil Heights, Rural Route 1, Thornton, Ontario. And what was related to this trademark was glassware, namely bowls, plates, candy dishes, fruit bowls, salad bowls, vases, paperweights, ashtrays, decanters, candle holders, napkin holders, wine glasses, mugs, and table centerpieces, all of glass, and glass ornaments. So anything to do with, pretty well to do with glass. This was registered in July the 29th, 1985. Similarly, the name Kelonia was also registered. Here's a bit of advertising. Thank you to Conrad and Brian for sending this our way. This is the same match book, and on the right you can see design glass and restaurant. We'll talk a little bit about that, where you can see glass handmade and enjoy the unique restaurant. And at the corner of Highway 400 and Innisfil Beach Road. And on the other side, there's our familiar Kelonia trademark. Well, digging a little further, we found this in the Globe and Mail in November 1985, announcing the grand opening of Kelonia Design Glass / restaurant. And they're opening up their showroom and a restaurant. And there's a map here that shows us where it is. And it's 40 minutes north of on the 401, 10 minutes south of Barrie. And it's right at the Innisfil Beach Road, Highway 400. The exit 85 off of the 400. And they got a coupon for $2 off. I don't know if that's still good or not. So let's put that into context. And here's a map. Little red dot shows the area that's on the inset there, which came from that previous ad. And it's about 10 miles or 10 minutes south of Barrie, Ontario, and it's located right at the Highway 400. Oh, what another item we found in our search was this report of a UCW members visiting the glass studio, and the ladies enjoyed United Church women. The ladies enjoyed a day out, and they went to visit the glass blowing studio at Kelonia, and they watched a clear blue glass blown vase made by Michael, and he's Czechoslovakian. That's all we know about Michael at this up to this point in time. They after they watched the demonstration and they probably did a little souvenir shopping. They had lunch in the lumberjack for for the rest of the end of their day. Something to note there is the building was made out of pine logs, and so that's kind of an interesting setting. You've got a log building with a glass studio, hot glass studio, and a restaurant. Very interesting setup. So that log connection is interesting as well because again, searching some more, I found another mention of the Kelonia Design Glass, and this was in 1987, and it was an article in Sault Ste. Marie newspaper talking about the Kodiak Log Limited that currently were headquartered in Thornton was buying a old sawmill in Sault Ste. Marie that they were going to refurbish in order to produce their own logs for their construction of log homes and buildings. Up to this point in time, Kodiak Log Limited had purchased, gone up north and purchased logs from sawmills already in northern Ontario. So here we have this little mention here that this company has a sales outlet on Highway 400 north of Aurelia called Kelonia Design Glass. It's a glass factory and a restaurant inside a sample home. So that log building was one of their demonstration homes. Chasing down that Kodiak Log Limited connection again, found this article from 1989 where it mentions that Kodiak is moving its entire operation from Thornton up to the Sioux. It, now we know we learned who Peter was in that earlier help wanted ad. Peter Rotanen, general manager, has been handling the administrative and marketing side of the 4-year-old business from a model home that was set up in Barrie. While his father, Olivia, it's probably Olavi, the company president, has been looking after production at their location at 1478 Goulet Avenue, which is in Sault Ste. Marie. And there's a picture of Peter off to the side there. So now that we've got a name, we can do a little tracking down and see if we can find something about Peter and his family. And found an article, had to translate it into English, but about 1980, Peter arrived in Barrie, and he was a resident of Turku, Finland. And the reason he came to Barrie was so he could attend Georgian College. His major there was business studies. He clearly liked Canada and became a landed immigrant a couple of years later. In 1983, his parents and his siblings came to Canada to join him there. He and I think his brother John were the Roto brothers that were mentioned earlier, and that business started up in 1983 as well. 1984, 1985, he opened Kelonia Design Glass in Thornton with a log business, a log building, a gift shop to sell their products, and a restaurant. In 87, it said that his father started Kodiak Log Limited, but the reality is Kodiak Log Limited was a few years earlier than that. 87 is when they moved to Sault Ste. Marie. And in 1989, they consolidated all the Kodiak activities in the Sioux, and that ended up in shutting down the Kelonia Design Glass Studio and the restaurant in Southern Ontario. So let's talk a little bit about the products of Kelonia, and we'll start with this piece, which is the one that our collection started with, and it's a centrifugally cast or formed bowl. Again, what's unusual about this is the dark blue bottom base and the crystal sides. That's an interesting color combination. It would be interesting to know exactly how they did it, but it had to be two gathers before they started the centrifugal forming. They also made a total piece in cobalt blue, and this is a kind of a another candle holder slash odd dish. I think it's a candle holder myself. This one is all cobalt blue, and again, it's labeled. The same piece was made in an emerald green. This is a fairly recent addition to our collection. So now we have our eyes open for other pieces, and maybe there's other colors other than crystal, cobalt blue, and emerald green. There's the label off to the side there. They also made vases, as was mentioned in that UCW article. And here's one that we picked up off of Etsy, I think it was. It is a solid chunk of glass. It's about an inch thick. You couldn't get very many flowers into it, even though it looks fairly large. And those wings are substantial, as you can see when we look at the bottom of it. As I don't know if this is typical or not, but this is the only example we have. But you can see that the bottom has been uh, ground flat, a rough grind or gray grind, and then there's the label on the bottom of it. We're still looking for more examples. Another item that they made, and they mentioned it in their trademark application, was paperweights. And I've started to collect these. I think I might have the world's largest collection of Kelonia paperweights. And how we know that they're Kelonia is most of them have got the vinyl or plastic label on the bottom. They're clearly aimed at the tourist trade. They've got iconic images of Canadian wildlife and scenes, and a few of them actually have words on them that would appeal to a tourist, the one that brings something home. Here's a bison. This came out of Edmonton. And here's a couple more. There's a Canada goose in flight, and off to the right, there's the iconic maple leaf, and underneath that is Canada. Clearly, these are meant for the tourist trade, and I do find a fair number of them in the United States because people came up and went home with something to remind them of their visit here. Here we have an owl on a branch and a polar bear. These are fairly good quality glass, and they're made to look like a block of ice. They're again they sit vertically. They don't sit on deep on their reverse, and the bottom is rough ground, and there's almost always a label on them. Here's the image of the seals. It makes me think of Newfoundland, and there's the sun coming up, so that's where the sun first comes up in Canada. You'll note it may be a little hard to see, but off on the lower right side, you see an SS and an 86 there. That's something I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. But some of the larger paperweights, and this one's about 7 inches long and about 4 inches tall, are signed with that SS 86. Here's another iconic scene. There's the Maid of the Mist in Niagara Falls, and that's the Horseshoe Falls. That's the Canadian side of the falls. This one has got SS 86. It's right at the right-hand side of the top of the falls. You can see it there. I think SS is designer. 86 is probably the year that the design was first made. There's that SS 86 that I was talking about blown up, so it's a little bit easier to see. There are a few paperweights that I've added to the collection that just based on the SS86 without a label. I'm hoping eventually to find an example with a label on it to be 100% sure that these are Kelonia and made in Canada. So at this point in time, I usually talk about learning the signs of stroke and what we should do. And face, is it drooping? Arms, can you raise both? Speech, is it slurred or jumbled? And if any of those are yes, it's T, time to call 911 right away. Act fast because the quicker you act, the more of the person you save. This is something that was really hit home for us. Judy had a stroke in 2017, and the EMTs were here very quickly and were treating Judy in the ambulance on her way to the hospital. Fast is what you need to do. So I'm going to stop at this point with questions, and I'm going to share one more paperweight, which is uh, the Canadian beaver, and again, an iconic Canadian symbol. Thanks very much.